Look at this case. How do you see this trial playing out? You know, every trial seems to have one or two big issues that become the big battle inside the courtroom. What do you think the fight will be about, or the battle in front of the jury in this trial?
So I think in this case, Vinny, we're going to see a situation where, we have already seen a preliminary examination that was quite lengthy, multiple witnesses, and candidly, there wasn't any direct evidence that pointed to Mr. Morris. There certainly were circumstantial evidence that was mentioned in your opening. But, you would have thought that we would have seen some evidence at the preliminary examination that connected Mr. Morris to the bloodstains, connected Mr. Morris to the bat, or connected him to the crime scene directly. The only thing we heard after significant testimony was that his cell phone tracked him to that particular area, and that items associated with the killing were in his arguable constructive possession. And so to your question, I think what we're going to see is an argument, I suspect, that there was somebody else involved with this. And, this is not unusual. We've seen this before. As far as the homeless man being a straw guy, whether that's for picking up drugs, being a lookout for drugs, bringing a girl to a quote unquote party. We've seen this play out this way before. And I think that it does create some questions that could be raised to a jury and create reasonable doubt that how could a 60-year-old man with no resources, this young woman falls into his prey, and that he's able to pull this off and leave, at least to date, no physical evidence in any way, shape, or form. I think that's what we're going to hear the jury be confronted with.
One of the other issues here is what happened to Susie afterwards. Let's take a listen to the forensic pathologist.
Starting with the external burn wounds as it relates to Ms. Zhao, can you give an approximate or a percentage of the portion of her external body that was burned by injuries?
Yes, well, it was extensively burned. I would estimate at least 90% of the body surface area was burned.
And was the condition of any damaged clothing that may have still been left on her body, was that also damaged by burning?
Yes, it was. Most of the clothing items were burned to the extent it was hard to tell exactly what they were.
All right, Jamie, how much of an obstacle will this be for prosecutors that the victim was burnt 90%?
Well, it certainly is very troubling to hear, but I think that it cuts both ways. Again, going back to the forensics, Vinny, they're alleging that gasoline was used in this crime to a significant extent, and there hasn't been any evidence directing that gasoline, connecting that to Mr. Morris in any way, shape, or form. What I will tell you, what I think that we should look at is, what's happened to date. We had the preliminary examination, which I've already discussed. Defense counsel in this matter did seek funds for a private investigator. At least that's what the record shows. What she has not done is she has not sought any sort of funds to address the issue of the cell phone that allegedly puts him at the scene. We have not seen any sort of biological expert request to address any forensic evidence found in this car and whether or not it connects him to this crime. And we have not seen the prosecutor put forth any evidence that it does. So the prosecutor has a strong case, of course, but I do hope for Ms. Zhao's family and Mr. Morris, of course, and justice in general, that there will be a little bit of a reach out to address some of these unanswered questions. At this point in time, if you look at the evidence as it stands, we have a homeless guy that was around a woman for unknown reasons at this point in time, and she ended up dead in the morning. And
how important is it for that question to be answered for this jury? For the jury to figure out exactly how these two lives, cross paths?
I think it's huge, Vinny. I think that, juries, they do want to connect the dots. And here we have a woman who had lived in California. We haven't seen any evidence to date that suggests they had a previous relationship or any sort of friendship. And somehow she came into his stead. And, if I'm a juror, I want to connect those dots. And I think the prosecutor has to make some connection other than there were materials found in a vehicle associated with him that involved her murder. Again, we know that people, they travel in strange packs, and I'm not suggesting Mr. Morris is a stand-up guy, because he, in my opinion, is not.
No, but
And,
cases have to be proven beyond a reasonable
That's
doubt,
right.
and you
That's
want to
right.
make sure that prosecutors can prove that in court to get the conviction. Jamie White,
Yeah.
always great having you on the program. Your insight is tremendous. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Vinny. Have a good, happy holidays.
You too.